Well, welcome to Allen's Day. This is part 6, working on the 2005 Holiday Rambler by Monaco. This is a diesel pusher that I've been upgrading for the last couple of years, and today we're not actually going to do anything. I'm just going to sort of show you what some of the work that I've done to try to keep it cool. For the most part, these units, if you're not pulling anything or going up a lot of hills, everything's just fine in there. But for me, I pull a trailer, and I get into the parts of the country that have a few hills in them. So I need to get every advantage I can to keep it cool. And let me just walk you around and show you some of the things that I've done. Well, let's get some lights on here. One thing before I take you around to the side to show you, it's real critical that you get yourself a filter minder on here, and that's this unit here, and I'll explain a little bit more about how that's very important here. So coming around to the side here, keeping it cool, you've got to have plenty of air moving through. For as much air as you've got coming in, you've got to be able to get that air out. But first of all, you've got to get the air into the unit. And this is the original air cleaner that came with the system right here. It looks like a pretty substantial air filter, which I thought was enough for this 5.9 Cummins. It's not. The last trip out that I had, my filter minder was pegged, and it was just, I wasn't sucking any air through it. The air intake for this is right up in the top here, so it should be sucking pretty clean air. This unit, after I found out that I had some problems, I was pulling some hills, had the trailer on the back at about 95 degrees with some headwinds, so my EGTs spiked a little bit. They got up to 1600, and that was just way too much. A little bit more than that, and could be cooking the motor out of here. So I pulled over to check to find out why my exhaust gas temperature is so high, and it came down to this air cleaner was plugged up tight with only a couple thousand miles on there, and I don't travel in a lot of dirt, so there's not enough volume in there. So one way to fix that is I put a bigger air cleaner on here. And this is the air cleaner here, and what I've got is I've got this air cleaner mounted up on the track here. I popped this end cover off of here so I can pull this out and compare the sizes of the two air cleaners that I've got here. So the two side by side, you can definitely see that there's a substantial difference in size in these air cleaners. So you can see how much more air we're going to be able to pull into the system compared to this one. These factory filters that came with the unit, they're probably good if you're not doing anything extreme, but they're just a bare minimum. So my recommendation is, if you've got one of these units, get rid of that little air filter there, get yourself a big one on there. It could be the difference between burning up a motor or not. So let me get you down inside of here and show you a little bit more about what's going on. So with the exhaust gas in here, it all starts at the turbo. You've got the air coming in on the inlet pipe going through the turbo, and it's got to be able to get out. And I put myself a EGT sending unit in here when I changed out the exhaust manifold, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second here. But to start out with, you've got to have your air coming out of here. And the factory's got this 2.5-inch pipe here, exhaust pipe, that they had running out quite a ways and around here. So what I did is I've got the 2-inch, and underneath this exhaust wrap on here, I've got that jacked up to going all the way up to a 4-inch as soon as I could. So that's a 4-inch stainless steel pipe that goes down and around. And all those elbows and fittings and stuff, you can buy all that off of Amazon. They're relatively cheap. So they go down and around. I got out here, and I've got an exhaust clamp here. One other thing that mention on here is underneath this wrap right here, there is a flex, stainless steel flex in there to take any extra side pressure off there, off the turbo mount on there. That, as far as I'm concerned, is pretty much mandatory. Anytime you do an exhaust system, as close as you can to the where it connects to the motor, get yourself get a flex in there. Back to the exhaust here. Yeah, it's a little cramped quarters down in here, hard to show you what we got going on. But then I've got my pipe going all the way out to the muffler here, so it's a real short one out. I've got the air coming in now with the bigger air cleaner, so it should cool my EGTs down. Back to the manifolds on these. This is, like I said, a 2005 5.9 Cummins. This isn't your standard 5.9 Cummins out of a pickup truck. This has got an EGR system set up in here, and that is part of this unit here, goes all the way through. And I mean, it's an integral part of these motors and how they're set up, and you just can't go in and unplug them. So you got to work with them and get them to function as clean as possible. So back to the exhaust manifold on these motorhomes. This one had 60,000 miles on the motorhome, but the exhaust manifold had hairline cracks in here in a few different spots on here. So it's almost guaranteed, if you've got one of these motorhomes with the 5.9 in there or any other one, that exhaust manifold, pretty good chance it needs to be replaced on there. And part of the reason you got to replace it is, what happens is every time they heat up and they contract just a little bit more. And what it does is it puts pressure on all these exhaust studs right here. When I took this out of here, there was so much pressure that the only way I could get this exhaust manifold out of here is I had to come in here with a Sawzall, cut that exhaust manifold up into pieces to lessen the stress on all those bolts so that I can get them loosened up. And then when you do change it out, since this is not a pickup truck, you can't buy it off the internet. You got to go to Cummins and get yourself the OEM exhaust manifold on here. There's a lot of upgraded ones out there. It'd be nice to do. And one other thing, once you get in there and once you tie into the exhaust manifold, well, that leads into the turbo. These are the bolts that hold the turbo on. Those bolts will be seized up on there. The only thing I could do is I took a Sawzall and I literally cut the neck off the exhaust manifold and took this out in pieces. And since I was that deep into it, I took it off and I sent the turbo out to a very reputable turbo rebuilder, and they just upgraded it. The factory parts that are in there, yeah, they work, but according to them, they've got better parts over the last 15 years to put in there. So there again, this goes back into the price of upgrading the Perfect on here. If you've got one of these units, yeah, you could just shut the hood, turn the lights off, and you could run it until you're sitting on the side of the road. Or you get underneath there and you start looking around and see what's really going on. And you're going to find out that you need to change out your exhaust manifold, lead into here. by the time you're done with this whole EGR, exhaust manifold, turbo, muffler, if you do it yourself, you're probably going to be into it for about $6 grand. You take it out to a shop, if you can find a reputable shop to do it, you're probably going to be into it for 12. So just beware when you buy one of these older units. Just because it starts up and drives down the road doesn't mean that you don't have to do anything to it. Get yourself under there and take a look. Well, I'll get you out and show you the next phase of what I did to keep this thing cool on my last trip. Well, there's one other thing that you can do to keep these motorhomes cool is get some exhaust wrap on there. I've got exhaust wrap all the way from the turbo coming down and around and all the way down here. And what that does is it keeps, for one, it keeps the engine compartment a little bit cooler, so that you're not building all that heat up in there. And just a little note about the exhaust strap there. It is very, there's a lot of real fine fibers in there that stick to you when you're rubbing up against them. So what I did on there, and I don't know if it's the right thing or not to do, but I did it anyways. I just took a can of clear coat, and every couple times a year I'll just take a can that, and I will just spray that all down, and it seals all those fibers in so that they're not sticking to you, because you sure will itch if you start leaning up against that exhaust wrap. So put some exhaust wrap on there, tie it on, and definitely that'll help keeping the hot gases where they're supposed to be and flowing out the back of the camper here. So in this cool Well, let me show you the components that I used in that filter system upgrade for the motorhome here. So you can see what I have. I've got it's a Fleet Guard air filter. I got it from Amazon, $84. And the housing that I used to hold this air filter, that's out of a 2002 Volvo semi-tractor. So it's a pretty substantial air cleaner housing. It's going to take a little retrofitting to get it in there, but it's not that bad. You saw what I did on the inside with the track set up in there. A couple of other components that you'll need. There's an adapter that I purchased here. This goes from the air cleaner housing to the air inlet. A little bit of adapting you got to do on there. And then also I got a couple of these flanges. I use this on the intake side for the air cleaner housing, and also we're on the pickup side of the air cleaner housing is this adapter here. It's a flange. Yeah, you got to get a little creative on there. There's going to be some screwing, some good quality caulk, a little bit of plywood filler, but you'll be able to make the housing work. And this is the filter minder that you need to have a good quality filter minder on your motorhome here. It's going to go a long way into making sure that you get enough air in there to keep the EGT temperatures down and keep this thing cool. So that's how I put it together. Be creative. I'm sure you'll get something to work in here other than the factory setup that they had, which is not sufficient for these motorhomes if you're doing anything with them other than just driving down a flat road. Well, talk to you guys later. So for keeping these motorhomes cool, we talked about the exhaust gas temperature. That's one part of keeping it cool. You also got to consider your transmission cooler. You need to have one, or upgrade your transmission cooler to make sure that you're not pumping hot transmission fluid in through your radiator. And then also get back in here, as I showed you on the previous part, get your radiator upgraded. And this is all real critical when you start, like I said before, just pulling hills and you start getting to some hot temperature and you're pulling a trailer. So that's it for part 6. Thank you for watching Alan's Day. Life is about making choices. Some things are already perfect. Some things you may choose to upgrade. This channel will show you both. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thanks again.